Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the All Access Pass. This is our second guest for this segment, and today I'm joined with Jamie Scissors Szczerbanik, but we'll go by Scissors today. I think that's how I've kind of referred to you throughout the time I've known you. So
yeah, mate, Scissors is a lot easier.
yeah. Actually, I was going to say move this one
No worries.
up a little bit. Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Oh, there.
You good?
Beautiful. But yeah, glad to have you on. Obviously, kind of crossed paths last year, kind of through some work I did with the Steelers, and I feel like we got along all right.
Yeah, we did, mate.
Yeah.
It was always a pleasure to see your face every Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, brought a good energy for the squad and the coaching staff. So, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, mate, I think it's a relationship and a friendship that we've built, and hopefully we can continue.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, obviously, coach of the Harold Matts under 17 boys side and the Harvey women's. Are they the only two sides you take care of down there at the Steelers?
Yeah, they are, yep. So I'll be sort of branching into a Dragons Academy role as well this year. So that'll sort of take place once the junior rep program's finished, and they'll identify, half a dozen of the elite players from a couple of different age groups, and they'll do one night a week. So I'll sort of roll into that as well. So I'll keep me teeth into the junior rep stuff there as well as the Harvey Norman stuff at the back end of the year.
Yeah. And then with that academy role, does that kind of just focus on transitioning Steelers to Dragons, or is that also like the comps in Gong, like trying to get those people funneled into those systems? Or
yeah, so it's more St George Illawarra have identified players from different age groups that they see coming through the pathways and being the future of the Dragons. So it's just about getting those guys in and exposing them to professional coaching and training from I'm pretty sure it's under 13s up to sort of around that 17, 18-year-old. So, the 17 and 18-year-old boys, they've been in junior rep systems for the last couple of years, and a few of them are already contracted to the Dragons. So it's about keeping an eye on them and monitoring them and not just sending them back into the wilderness and letting them have a bit of free run back at local footy. So, there's a little bit of accountability there as well that we just continually drive into them, and, which drives into the following season and the season after that. So, it's going to be good to be able to see the boys progress sort of through the year.
Yeah, and even when I was doing, I've followed rugby league my whole life, but I've never really been involved in the local scene. That kind of working with you guys at Illawarra Steelers was kind of my first exposure to that.
Yep.
And even just seeing the crop of talent, just even amongst the females. Like, obviously, you're monitoring both male and female players. What do you, obviously, with the time that you've been there, what have you assessed from that, obviously, that kind of scene and those players differing from, obviously, the previous clubs you've been at?
Yeah, I suppose previously I've been at the Panthers.
Yeah.
But it's no secret that their breeding ground is the biggest, and it's the benchmark. But down at the Illawarra, the breeding ground there, I think people don't actually realise how big the area is. So Helensburgh down to Ulladulla is...
It goes all the way to Ulladulla.
Yeah, so that's the...
I knew it went up to Helensburgh. I didn't realise...
Yeah, so that's the Illawarra region, right? So it's huge. Now... totally different demographic. We don't have a heavily populated Polynesian demographic down in the Illawarra, but we've got fit, fast, agile, highly skillful players that cover that whole region. So it's different, but we just work on what we're really good at, and we improve what we're really good at. And then, the physicality side of things, the kids don't know any different. So they don't care who they play football against every single week. And that showed more in the Harvey Norman side for 2024, where we had the smallest forward pack every single week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost 2 games all year, and we're going and become premiers. You know what I mean? So the kids down there have never been told that they can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they believe that they can do anything that they put their mind to. So, they're a very resilient bunch, whether it's male or female. And I don't really like to to split both of them in those categories of male and female. I like to just keep them under the one banner of football players or rugby league players.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, regardless of gender, I'm a rugby league coach and I coach rugby league teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing that crosses that whole region is resilience and just desire to want to win.
Yeah. And that's even something that I noticed, like just the hunger amongst the playing groups down there. We dabbled on your coaching a bit, but I kind of want to take it back.
Yep.
With you, obviously, you used to play and growing up around rugby league.
Yep.
So what are your like earliest memories of the game?
I played under sixes as a 5-year-old for Canley Vale Kookaburras.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're around anymore, but they sort of were a team in the Parramatta comp when I was little. So mum and dad grew up around that area, and so I played one season there, and then I went and played soccer until I was 10. And then I sort of got the itch to want to go back and play rugby league again, and I was lucky enough that I come through the Western Suburbs Magpies pathways before they become the West Tigers, sort of in that sort of 2000, 1999, 2000 time frame there. But it come through, the mini Magpies they called them back then, which was 13s, 14s, and 15s.
Yep.
And then played Harry Matthews, SG Ball, Jersey Flag, all through that. And then had a couple of injuries there, and my time ended, and I went out and played Group 6.
Yep.
Which was great because
Group 6 is here, isn't it?
it is here, yeah. So I played for Thelmy Roosters for a couple of years.
Right, okay.
And, which was great because you sort of got to step away from, that high intensity. You're switched on every single minute of training, every single minute of the game, and you got to go back and play footy with men that were playing it for the love of the game, and it made you sort of just fall in love with the game over and over again. Like it was every training session, every game, you just appreciated that environment, like those guys. And I always had aspirations to be an NRL player.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but for a couple of reasons there, but both times injuries. But I can go deeper into that if you need me to.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back, these guys were, mid to late 20s, some of them early 30s. They had families. They were turning up on a Sunday and they were putting their body through just a brutal 80 minutes where, bush footy back then was so physical, but yet they'd get up and they'd go to work at 7 o'clock Monday morning.
They go to their trade the next day.
Yeah, that's right. And the appreciation for those guys, I suppose, made me appreciate when I went back and played grade again in 2007, gave me a different perspective and made me really appreciate being back there again. I suppose I learned a lot of lessons, not only coming through sort of professional rugby league, but in that grassroots rugby league as well, which I hope that I instill into these boys now. But yeah, mate, it's I've travelled out to Parks. I played out there, lived out there for 5 years, played for the Parks Spacemen.
Yeah.
That was sort of the back end of my career there. I was lucky enough to represent New South Wales country twice. And like I said, come through the West pathways, played reserve grade there on 2 occasions, finished the first time in 2004, went back in 2007. From what I was told, I was meant to debut twice, or once in 2004. I got injured. I got injured at training. 2 slip discs, missed 15 weeks of footy, so that never eventuated. And then in 2007 again, we played a Monday night against Parramatta at Homebush before the West Tigers, or the curtain raiser there on the Monday night. And I thought I broke my arm. I didn't, but I hurt my arm bad enough that, it stopped me from debuting the week after. So, 2 opportunities and never got another one after that. But hey, it's rugby league, and it is what it is. It doesn't define who I am as a person, or I just want to take all those learnings that I took as a player and put them into coaching and hopefully help those kids.
Yeah, and clearly you love the game enough as a player to want to still be in that sort of role now to motivate those people who might have been in positions similar to yours. When you look back on your time as a player, is there anything you might have changed or anything like that sort of thing? Or
Look, I don't think I would have changed anything. Rugby league's a lot different to what it was back then, as far as the professionalism is concerned, and the well-being and the wellness and all that type of stuff. So and even the guidance. Like back then, if you were injured, your coach didn't speak to you until you were available. Right, so you'd be in rehab for however many weeks or whatever it is, and you got players there that done ACLs and had reconstructions. They're looking at 9 to 12 months, probably more 12 months back then, because medically not as advanced as what it is now. But there'd be guys there and they'd be grinding away 4 nights a week, and the coach wouldn't speak to them. Now it's all about checking in on each other and making sure that headspace wise everybody's in a good headspace, and the injured players are across your systems and your structures as much as the boys that are available to play. So I think now it's a better time to be a football player now than what it was back then, but everything's learning. You learn from your mistakes, and I think if you do everything right all the time, I don't think you'll learn as much as if you do things wrong. So would I change things? Probably not. But have I learnt from my mistakes? Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I don't want these boys to make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. I was looking at, when I was drafting just some of the points I wanted to make, looking at your rugby league profile, and it says you've made 4 caps for Poland. Would I be correct in saying that?
4 caps for Poland?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I retired. It's a funny story, actually. So I retired at the end of 2013.
Yeah.
And then I played for Poland in 2018. So I was 5 years retired. And the Emerging Nations World Cup was down in Sydney, and it was a great opportunity, and obviously Polish heritage, and you had to have 23 registered players to be able to enter the Emerging Nations World Cup. So I knew the committee of Polish Rugby League. I didn't know the coach. He was a new coach, Lee Addison, his name is, and really good fella. And, I reached out to him and I said, look, put me down. You put me down as part of your squad, but if you get 23 players, take me out. But if you've only got 22 and you need 23 to put a squad in, I'll be player 23. They're like, okay, no worries.
You always play that game.
So they're like, oh, can you just come and play? We've got a warm-up match against Hungary. Can you just play in that? Because we've got a couple of players that will be in our squad, but they're not available for that. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, no worries. So I go and play, and I played in the centres. So I finished my career in the front row.
Wow.
But I come back 5 years later and played in the centres. And I felt like I just stood in front of 100 trucks and the next day, and I was so sore, and I'm like, geez, I hope they got 23 players to play in this in this Emerging Nations World Cup. And then they announced the final squad, and he announced me in the final squad, and there was a couple of players that played in that trial or in that warm-up match that didn't make the final squad. And I made the phone call. I said, what are you doing? He said, mate, I need you. I'm like, okay, no worries. So I played the 4 caps. It should have been 5. But one game, it was a short turnaround, and the old body couldn't handle the short turnaround, so I had to withdraw out of that game. But we're lucky enough. We went on. We're the only team, or the only nation in that Emerging Nations World Cup that went through undefeated. But we couldn't win the whole thing because we didn't have a world ranking at the time. So we were unseeded. So we played for the plate against the Philippines, and we ended up winning that. So that was pretty cool. To sort of play those 4 games, represent my heritage, be the only nation to be undefeated that whole tournament, and to win it, which was great. And I was lucky enough I got to captain Poland in that game.
Yeah, so, I was going to say it had a C next to your name.
Yeah, it did have a C. I did have a C next to my name, and then I was lucky enough that in 2023 I got to coach Poland.
Yeah, wow, that's like full circle type of thing. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So I got to represent them, captain them, and coach them as well. So,
Yeah, wow.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
Nah, that's mad. That's a really cool story. That's really like a really wholesome story. We talked about before where kind of your coaching career started because you said you were playing at Parks.
Yep.
But that's where it all started. That's where Jamie the coach kind of was born. 2014, would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, 2014. Yeah.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about that when just getting into that and trying to pivot from obviously playing to coaching, and it's a big switch up plays.
Yeah. So never had any desire to be a coach. When I was playing, even I had in my head that when I turned 30, I was going to retire. So 30 was going to be 2014. I ended up retiring in 2013. So I hurt my knee. I went and seen he was a Wallabies doctor at the time down at Homebush, Corey Cunningham. Went and seen him, and I had previous relationship with Corey when I played Jim Beam Cup, which is now Ron Massey Cup at Mounties. Corey was the club doctor there, so I made the trip down to Parks from Parks down to go see him. He said, "Look, you're 29. You don't need surgery. If you want to still go out kick the footy with the kids and run around and everything like that, you don't need surgery. But if you want to play again, you're probably going to have knee surgery." So I said, "Can I play without having surgery?" He goes, "You can rehab it. Some people do come back from it." And it was just an elongated PCL.
Yeah, okay.
So it was just more the hyperextension motion rather than the stability side of it. And I went back and I went back to pre-season training with Parks, and I trained 6 sessions and didn't complete one of them. So I made a few phone calls to some people that I put a lot of trust in, not only with football but just in general life as well, and they sort of guided me into the decision to retire without telling me that I should retire. They
it's
sort
like
of
the subliminal type.
Which was, and to be fair, I'd achieved everything that I possibly could in the game, and there was nothing more that I could have achieved or would have achieved if I played for one more year. So I made the decision to step down, and then my wife said to me, "You should look into coaching." I don't want to coach. That's the worst job ever. I don't want to coach. And then the Park Spacemen under-16s team, their coach, I can't remember why, but he had to step down for whatever reason. And he'd been their coach since I was 6 years old.
Yeah, wow.
And he had to step away. And these guys had made the grand final multiple times in their junior rugby league stages, and they'd never won one. And then a good mate of mine, Tony Dwyer, he's now the president of the Park Spacemen Senior Rugby League. His son was playing in that side. And he's like, "Oh, Scissors, we need a coach. Can you coach?" And I'm like, "So I don't want to coach, Tone. I don't want to coach." And I think maybe it was an ego thing that, now I look back, like, a pretty successful footy career as a player. Probably didn't want to fail as a coach and people sort of point fingers and stuff like that. So maybe it was a bit of an ego thing at the time. I'm like, "Tone, I can't." And I come up with all these excuses as to why I couldn't. I'm doing shift work in the mine, and I can't make every training session. I can't make every game. And he's like, "Means nothing. I'll put my name down as the coach, put you down as a trainer. I just need you there when you can get there." I'm like, okay. Went home, spoke to my wife. I'm like, "I don't want to do this." And she's like, "Just do it. Just do it. If you don't like it, don't do it again." But I'm like, okay. So I agreed to do it. There were some great football players in that team, like that went on to play NRL. So Billy Burns played in that side.
Yep,
currently at Cronulla, formerly at St George and the Panthers. Darby Medlin went on to debut during COVID down at the Canberra Raiders. Played in that team as well. And there was some really exceptional local talent there as well. And I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that my wife talked me into it. I'm glad that Tony made the phone call. And I, to this day, like, I probably describe it more as my poker machine moment. Like, you turn 18, you go to the club for the first time, you play the poker machines, you always win.
Yeah.
And then that's how an addiction starts, right?
Yeah.
So rugby league or coaching was my poker machine. Like coaching the Park Spacemen that year, that under 16s, we had a great side. We won the comp.
Yeah, that's not a bad first season as a coach.
And it just sucked me in, and then from then I'm like, this is awesome. And I really like the fact that it wasn't, at that stage, I probably wasn't ready to be in and around the senior team at the moment, because I suppose emotionally I thought I should have still been out there on the field with them. Yep. Whereas 16-year-old boys, you can coach them, but you can't physically get out there and help them. So,
yep.
It kept me in the game, but it took that distraction away of thinking that it had to be out on the field helping them. So it was great, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, and then obviously winning in your first year, you go to Western Rams next. Is that your next coaching gig?
Yep.
Yep. And I've got a photo.
You do?
Care to explain this photo?
Yeah. So,
because I think that's when I stumbled across this photo, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of pretty pretty insane fate. Like, I'll pop the photo up on the screen in the edit, obviously.
Yep.
Now, was he in that first side that you coached?
Yeah, so he was. So yeah, obviously it's a young Matt Burton. So that photo was, at training for the Western Rams, and we played in the Country Championship back then. It's now Andrew Johns Cup,
yep.
But it just used to be the under-16s Country Championship. They had 16s and 18s. So I was lucky enough, had Matt Burton, had Charlie Staines in that side as well.
Yeah.
But that photo was taken, so there was a campaign, it was called the Respect Campaign. So you signed, both coach and captain signed the document to show respect to match officials.
Yeah.
Because, we all know that, on game day, it's the referee or it's the touch judge that gets abused all the time. And we forget that they're there to do a job. They put in the hours as much as the players put in the hours. The referees and the touch judges and the match officials on the sideline as well. They put in the hours as well to be really good at their craft. Yep. But they're also people and they make mistakes. But they've got feelings as much as everybody else does, and they've got people at home that care about them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As do the players and coach and stuff. So that was the Respect Campaign, like I said, every coach and every captain had to sign that. But mate, so I was lucky enough, had Matt Burton as our captain there. We went through that championship undefeated and got beat in the grand final, right on the bell, 10 seconds to go.
That's hard.
It was tough. Man. So. It was against the Northern Tigers up at Tamworth. They shaped for a field goal and we went to charge it down, and then they dummied the field goal and spread it out wide, and they ended up scoring in the corner. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was heartbreaking, mate. It definitely was. And then I was lucky enough, a couple of years later, I got to coach Birdo again and Charlie at the Panthers.
Yep. And that's my next thing. But not only like taking another position, you're obviously living out Parks, Westway, going still, it's south, like Western Sydney, but relocating the whole family back to Sydney. Like, was that a big change? Obviously, was that because of the coaching gig, or was that because of other reasons? Or
so when we moved out to Parks, we had my eldest daughter Ellie.
Yep.
That was it. We ended up having another 2 daughters whilst living out there over that sort of 4.5, 5 years. And it just got to a point where it was just getting too hard to come home and see family, or for family to come out and see us, because it's not just a one-day trip, it's a whole weekend. And the girls were going to grow up and there was going to be distance between relatives just purely because of not being able to see them too often. So we made the decision before that competition even started. We made a decision in the December that we were going to move home. So I gave my notice in December.
Yeah. Were you
At
working
work.
out there? Is that
I was working in the mines out there, so I gave my and they couldn't believe that I gave my notice so early because that competition didn't finish until April.
So like what, like 5-6 months?
Yeah, right. But we'd already made the decision. My wife owned the dance studio in Parks as well.
Yeah.
So it was
That's a big call. Yeah.
It was a massive call to move home, but it was a right call to make. We now get to see our nieces and our nephew grow up and be a part of their lives, and it's not just to see them on special occasions. We see them most weekends, which is great. And the girls get to spend time with their cousins, which is awesome, right? And that's a bond that is very important just in young kids' lives, but it's important in your adult life as well. Absolutely. to have connections with your family. So that was our reason to come home. So so my wife and my 3 girls moved home earlier in 2016, and I stayed out in Parks by myself. I finished up work there and then spent the final 2 weeks of that Western Division campaign living with a mate in Bathurst. Right, so I think I spent about 3 months or so just being a bachelor, having the family back in Sydney, and
that's so funny.
me still being out at Parks, finishing my role out in the mine, and then finishing my role coaching. And then at that time, it was sort of around the time that the Panthers adopted Western Division.
Yeah.
And there's a fellow.
You see the products that they've got from Western Division, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah. So my 2 times that I represented New South Wales country, my coach there, Dave Elvey, he played for Panthers in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s, and he kept a really good relationship with Jim Jones, who's the recruitment manager out at the Panthers. So he put both of us in contact, and after every Western Rams game that we played, Jimmy Jones would ring me and he'd be discussing players and whatever else there. And obviously Matt Burton and Charlie Stones were 2 of those players that he was talking about and getting feedback on, and he was watching videos and we're having those discussions. And then Dave reached out to Jim and said, Scissors, after this is finished, Scissors moving back to Sydney. Do you have a spot for him? He's like, well, we'll make a spot for him. So I was lucky enough that so April, that finished. I moved back to Sydney, went and sat down with Matt Cameron, who's now the big boss of the Panthers, but he was the pathways manager at the time.
Yep.
And Jimmy, obviously the recruitment manager, and they sat down and they said, look, junior reps is all but finished, but we've got a junior elite training program that we want you to be a part of. So I went straight into that role.
Yeah, wow.
In 2016. So, I was a strength and conditioning coach when I first went to the Panthers.
Right, so it's not even rugby league.
No, right. So strength and conditioning coach. So I started there with the junior elite training squad, and I was working alongside Lee Hopkins.
Yeah, right.
Just doing that. So we're just in the gym, making sure that the boys were lifting properly. They weren't getting ahead of themselves, overloading the bar and whatever else, and just working on technique and stuff like that. And that was my entry into the Panthers.
Yeah. What age group roughly was that for junior elite?
Yeah, so junior elite was 13s to 15s. Okay. Yeah.
So it's similar age to what the boys you'd been working with in club level. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So when you got to Panthers, you were there for 7 years?
Well, 8 seasons.
8 seasons?
7 years, yeah.
Yeah. Was that strength and conditioning the whole time?
No, it wasn't. So 2016, I done that, then rolled into being the Harold Matt strength and conditioning coach for the 2017 season.
Yeah.
Which was great. But I sort of had this feeling that it wasn't enough. It wasn't filling my cup up. But strength and conditioning wasn't a passion of mine. I just thought that it was, and a lot of rugby league players sort of fall into the PT / strength and conditioning.
I was going to say, do you have any TAFE certificates in fitness or anything?
No, I've got a certificate for in training and assessing.
Yeah.
Right, which is more presentations and delivering content and all that type of stuff. So, which is more coaching rather than strength and conditioning or being a PT.
Yeah, we see where your passion lies, right?
Yeah.
That alone.
Yeah. So 2017, I was the S&C for Harold Matts, and then that finished, and then I got the phone call to see whether I wanted to go up and just be an extra trainer for New South Wales Cup. I'm like, yeah, it'd be awesome. Go up. And so I didn't really have a role. I was more just like the water boy. I'd fill up the drink bottles, pick up the cones. You know, if one of the coaching staff needed a hand, I'd just be that extra set of hands for them for that drill or whatever it was on game day. If the hookers wanted to get a couple of extra passes in before they took the field, I'd just be that guy that they'd pass the ball to. And, but it was awesome. Garth Brennan was the coach of that year, and they went on to win the Premiership there, and then they won the state championship as well. So that was awesome to be a part of. And then I got the phone call after that season finished, from Ben Harden, who was the Pathways coach at the time, and Matt Cameron.
Yep.
And I was just driving to a meeting, and they just rang me while they were in the car, and they said, look, Benny's going to step up and he's going to be the Jersey Flegg coach for next year. Wondering if you want to be one of his assistants. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
This is awesome, and there'd been no other conversation leading up to that. It was just out of the blue. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no, don't give me an answer now. Go and speak to your wife. It's a big commitment. Starts in November, finishes sort of last week of September. It's 4 nights a week plus weekends. You can't just make this decision on your own. You've got to go speak to your wife about it.
That's good. That's good on him for saying that.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
like, naturally for you, obviously having not been in a coaching role of that magnitude yet, you go, yeah, head over heels, yeah, I'm going in. And then he's like, yeah, like pump the brakes a bit. But that's the appropriate call to make, to be honest.
Yep. And they're like, we don't need an answer today. Like, take a week, take 2 weeks.
Wow.
But the job's yours if you want it. There's just no pressure. So I went home and my wife said, you ring him tomorrow and tell him that I'm backing you. Okay, sweet. So rang him back and told him, and I accepted that role, as the Jersey Flegg assistant coach, and I was defence focused for that year, and I was defence focused for most of my time in that role. Sort of I was guided that year in 2018 by Benny around the drills, the systems, the processes, and I was lucky enough that, Cam Serraldo was there at the time, and he'd come down and he'd give you your time. Trent Barrett was the attack coach at the time, and he'd just come and give you your time. If they had a late training session that day, they'd hang back and they'd come and check in on you, see if there was anything that you needed, any questions that you needed to ask, they'd answer for you. They'd just give you the time of day, and it was like they would never look at the clock to see what the time was. They were happy to just stay around and help you, and they just made you feel so comfortable, and then you just fall in love with the place straight away. So, I loved it there, and I never thought that my time at the Panthers would end. But as the seasons went on, they gave me more and more responsibility, and we sort of wrestle's a massive part of the NRL, but it's also a massive part of rugby league now. So we had the NRL wrestle coach. He'd do sort of one session a week during pre-season with our boys, and then I'd take those learnings and I'd take them back down to SG Ball and Harold Matts. So I was effectively the junior development contact coach.
Yeah, wow.
And I'd go back and to those junior rep teams and their defensive coaches, I'd be relaying all the systems and principles from up top. I'd be relaying them down to the junior rep program, so that no matter what team you played for in age group wise, if you wore a Panthers jersey, you followed the exact same systems and principles. And it shows now. Look at all these kids that are coming through that are juniors, that are buying into what the club is about.
They're all animals. Like going attacking defensively, like they're all so like fine tuned, and they like all know exactly what their job is, and they just do it the simple things well.
Yeah. Well, Stephen Crighton's he's probably the perfect example of it. Like, he was like player like 49 out of 50 in a summer squad for SG Ball.
Wow.
Right? He was like playing second division in the local competition, and there was a spot there, and they just looked at his frame and they're like, maybe there's something maybe there's something in this kid. But he was like a gun basketballer. Like he'd be playing, like if he wanted to play
3-on-3. Like,
NBL, he'd be playing NBL.
Yeah,
If you know what I mean, like he's just like a freak in everything that he does, and they gave him a chance, and he just worked his backside off to go from player 49 to being the starting side to now being
arguably the best centre in the game.
Arguably the best centre in the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
it's no fluke.
Oh yeah, no, it shows.
Yeah.
Even just his progression as a player, even through his professional years.
Yeah.
Like how he got moved around the back line, got rumoured to play fullback on the wing, centre, rep out of rep, like just constant. Yeah. And now look at where he is now.
And he just believes in his systems and his processes, and regardless of what level of football he's playing now, he's solid.
It's even like another good example of him in that sense is when he got named captain of the Bulldogs in his first year. Everyone's like, "What? Really? Young guy, captain first year?" Mate, they proved him wrong. He got captain of the year. Like, seriously, just in every aspect, just phenomenal player. He seems like a phenomenal bloke too.
Oh, so all those boys that come through that system, they would never dare walk past you without saying hello, come shake your hand. And that's not because they had to. It's because they wanted to. They know where they come from and where they're at now, and they talk about it all the time around gratitude and stuff like that. And they're grateful for the opportunities that they've been given as individuals, and they never forget where they come from, and that's why they are so successful. Because you watch the Panthers NRL side and they get around and you see them with the boombox and whatever else when they get off the bus, and people, it's a bit of tall poppy syndrome where people want to sort of bring them down.
Yeah.
But that's just them being comfortable on game day. Yeah. It's being comfortable around each other. But you have a look after a game, who's out there signing autographs, who's giving their boots, who's the last person in the shed.
Yeah.
It's those guys that they're being hammered in the media.
I also think that they understand that if they were a kid and they were in those stands, that they'd want the players to go around, and a lot of players will do that in that kind of aspect. But yeah, no, that whole system that they've got over there is like, it is, as you said, it's the benchmark.
Yep.
Yeah. So from there, you were there for 8 seasons, 7 years.
Yep.
You end up down on the South Coast. How does that all come about? How does leaving Penrith, who are flying high, winning comps, their juniors looking ever so promising, and then you go, time for a change of scenery?
Yeah. So had a desire to be a head coach. So I've gone from not wanting to coach at all to wanting to coach my own team. So Panthers been so successful, no one's moving above you, right? Yes, obviously NRL, Cam Serrato was, he sort of moved on. Andrew Webster, Trent Barrett, those guys sort of went from being assistant coaches up there to being head coaches at NRL clubs.
Did those guys teach you much, like, about your own style? Like, did you get to, like, obviously you'd have your own ideas of rugby league, but being around those guys, like, the resumes that they have.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And look, if you're that closed-minded to think that you know everything about rugby league, at that club, if you're not willing to learn, you don't stay there for long.
Yeah.
And if you get around with an ego, you don't stay there for long.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
I would have Cam Serrato come and grab me and say, come with me. So I'd be watching an NRL session, come with me. And I'd walk with Cam Serrato and he'd be explaining everything to me, why the drills have been done. Like they used to come out every Friday. They used to go out to Camden Valley Wrestle complex there.
Gracie, that's Rob Whittaker.
Yeah, it is Rob Whittaker.
I was telling you about Flynn, or my mate who's an MMA fighter. He trains between there and his gym.
Yeah,
and he tells me how amazing it is there.
Yeah, so Alex Prates is he's Rob's.
That's who he was talking about yesterday.
He's his BJJ coach and whatever else, and and they've got like Jacob Malcoon there as well.
Literally all the names that got thrown up the other day.
There's some really good martial artists out there, right? And they're there for a reason, right? So Alex was the NRL wrestle coach for a couple of years at the Panthers. So every Friday up until Christmas, they'd head out there.
Yeah.
And I'd manipulate work on a Friday morning that I could start Friday morning out at the wrestle gym and watch NRL wrestle. And then Serraldo would just say, come on, don't just sit there and watch, come on, let's go. So I'd have shoes off, I'd be out there on the mats, and I'd be walking in and around the boys, and I'd be listening to Alex deliver the wrestle content, and then I'd be also listening to Ciro deliver the rugby league side of the wrestle content as well. And I'm forever grateful for him just sort of grabbing me there.
Two pretty good people to have.
Yeah, and then, even Baz, when he was there, he was the attack coach. He got hammered for probably the results as a head coach, both at Manly and at the Bulldogs. But his rugby league mind as a player and as an attacking coach, they're exceptional. And still to this day, the core of the Panthers' attacking style is still based off Trent Barrett's foundations that he set there. Right.
Wow.
But they come in and they put a full presentation together, and Trent Barrett's put an attack presentation together based on from sort of day one of pre-season around what expectations would be there to like in season.
Yeah.
Right, and what the expectations were at NRL level, and Cam Serraldo done the same thing. But then they'd come out onto the field and they used the Jersey Flegg team as their as their guinea pigs, and they'd run the whole session and they'd put all these drills in place so that the coaches' staff could sit back and get comfortable and get an understanding around the systems, the processes and the principles of what the club was about. And, just if they were willing to give you the time, you had to be willing to listen and learn, which was great. And then Andrew Webster so Baz moved on, Webby come in. And they'd won the they got beat in the grand final in 2020, and then Webby come in for 21, I'm pretty sure it was, and they weren't to start NRL pre-season until back end of November. And Andrew Webster turns up the Jersey Flegg pre-season training day one. I didn't even know who he was. Right? He comes in and introduces himself, and he's just standing there and he's watching and he's asking questions. And then I went to Benny Harden. I said, "This fellow, that's Andrew Webster. He's the new attack coach for first grade." Well, lucky I didn't,
like you've never cracked or anything.
Walk on, mate, type thing. and Webby's asking all these questions, and I'm like, "Why is he asking all these questions?" So I pulled him up. I said, "Webby, you're the NRL assistant. Why are you asking me all these questions?" He goes, "Mate," he goes, "because I want to go to day one of NRL pre-season understanding what this club's about."
Wow.
So he was just learning himself, right? And he's using coaches below him to learn. So he has an understanding as of day one what the expectations are within the four walls. So it's not about a junior rep coach just learning from the head coaches. It was the head coaches putting their ego aside and learning from the junior rep coaches as well. It's
incredible.
Oh, sensational.
Yeah. I can only imagine what he would have done when he went over to New Zealand, trying to learn the inner workings and the fabric of that club.
Yeah.
Because there'd be even more of a cultural aspect to it because the people there are so invested in rugby league.
So then I suppose, and it's been a long answer to your question, but to then have to leave the club.
Yeah.
Because there just wasn't opportunity. So I went and I made that decision. I made the decision in June of 2023. So only round 13. It was around the origin period, right?
Yeah, right. So June, July.
Yeah, right. And I didn't have another club to go to. But I just went to John O'Rolph, who was the flag coach at the time. And I said, "Jono, I'm not coming back next year." And it was like someone had robbed him.
I was going to say, it's like you don't know what you have till it's gone. It's like you've been a mainstay for 8 seasons.
I was like someone had held him gunpoint and robbed him, and he was just so shocked, and he didn't know what to say or do. And then he just waited, a couple of moments, and he just said, "Why?" I said, just feels stale. Just coaching the same thing over and over and over again. And I said, I love it here and I don't ever want to leave here, but I think I just need to be in control of my own team. So where are you going? I said, don't know. Then next person I went and seen was Matt Cameron. I said, Camo, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here and I'd love to stay here forever, but I just want to have a chance of being a head coach and coaching my own team. And there's no opportunity here at the moment. He said to me, he goes, mate, if I could manufacture a position for you right now, I would. I just can't. He said, do you mind if I make a couple of phone calls for you? If you don't want me to, I won't. I said, mate, I'd love that. And he rang Ian Millwood down at the Dragons, and he said, mate, if you got a head coaching role in your junior reps, I've got a fella that would be perfect for you. And so ended up getting a phone call, went down and had a meeting with Sean O'Connor, who's Director of Rugby League for the Steelers.
I had the pleasure of meeting him.
Yep. Ian Millwood, who's the Junior Recruitment Manager or Pathways Recruitment Manager at St George Illawarra. Yep. And Stacey Jury, who's the Steelers Pathways Manager. Yep. So I got to go down and have a chat with those guys, and they couldn't believe that I had the boss of an NRL club that I was leaving as my referee. Right, so
what year is this, by the way?
So that was at the end of 2023.
It's like Penrith peak.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
literally couldn't get Penrith at a better time.
And we'd won all 4 grades in 2022 as well. Yeah. So we'd won SG Ball, Jersey Flag Reserve grade and first grade in 2022.
Yeah,
so
it's a nice badge to have next year.
Yeah, and still sort of made that decision that it was time to move on and go and explore other opportunities. So yeah, it was awesome. So that was the reason why I left the Panthers. Is I just wanted an opportunity to be head coach, and I'm grateful for both the Steelers and the Dragons for offering me the opportunity that I've got. And I just want to, I suppose, I want them to be the best footballers that they can be.
Yeah.
But I had this chat with the boys last week. Sort of put myself out of my comfort zone. And I got our welfare manager to ask me a couple of questions where I could go in depth so that the players could get to know me a little bit more, because, yes, we spend a lot of time together, but it's all about rugby league. Yeah. It's not interpersonal. Yeah. Right? So they don't know. They know me as Scissors, the cranky guy who can blow up when things don't go to plan and whatever else. But I just needed them to understand why I am the way I am and who I am as a person. So one thing I've learned in rugby league from the time that, as a player and as a coach, is that good people make great rugby league players, but good rugby league players don't necessarily make good people. Right? So if I can, regardless of whether I'm coaching male, female or other, if I can help these players be the best version of themselves, we'll get the best out of them on the football field. So, that's sort of the philosophy that I stand by as a coach. Some people might disagree, and they all have a right to disagree because everybody has an opinion, and that's a great thing of, being a human being, is that you get to have an opinion, whether it's right or wrong, and nobody can take that away from you. But yeah, I live by the fact that good people make great rugby league players. Yeah. So if I can help them be the best version of themselves on and off the field, I'll get the best out of them on the field.
I think it's a great ammo. Yeah. Like just that whole kind of outlook on rugby league. So you get to Steelers.
Yep.
Have this interview with Sean O'Connor and the Steelers board.
Yep. And
they give you a Harold Match side.
Yep. But
not long after that, they're looking for a Harvey Norman coach.
Yep.
Talk us through kind of that.
Yeah, it sort of come from left field.
Yeah.
I've never coached females. Only ever been in the male space. I suppose my focus was on Harold Matts, and I didn't have to rush my decision, but Sean O'Connor came to me and he said, Scissors, I need you. It's not I wanted you to. I need you to coach the Harvey Norman women's team. I think you are the best person for the job. And I just looked at him and I said, Sean, what are you on about? He said, mate, I've just been watching at games, at the Harold Matts games, and the way that you conduct yourself with your 3 daughters and your wife, you're the perfect person that could lead this.
That's great insight.
This group of young females at Harvey Norman level. I'm like, oh, look, I'm flattered, but I'm not too sure. He said, no rush, just have a think about it. And I went home and I spoke to Mindy, my wife, and she goes, is that what you really want to do? Do you want to coach men or do you want to coach women? I said, well, I don't know, because I've never coached women, so I don't know. And she's like, well, it's a decision that you have to make, and whatever decision you make, we'll back you like we always do. Okay. She said, go and speak to Ellie and see what she reckons. So, Ellie's she was my 15-year-old daughter. She's soon to be 16, but my 15-year-old daughter who has started her own rugby league journey, just through, no pressure from mum or dad. She danced from the age of 3 to 14 and then just sort of turned around and said, I want to play rugby league.
That's a big leap.
And we're like, are you sure? Like, geez, it's a massive jump from being this, pretty ballerina up on stage to going out and, rough and tough, getting dirty, bruises, injuries, all that type of stuff. And she's like, well, you guys have always said that we can do whatever we put our mind to, and I want to give rugby league a go. So
there you go.
So we're like, okay, no worries.
Decision made.
Yep. Who do you want to play with? And her and a friend had picked a team that they wanted to go and play for, and so we registered her, and off she went. So I went and had a chat with Ellie around this opportunity that the Steelers have offered me. She goes, do it. I'm like, why? She goes, well, you always talk about wanting to be the best coach you can be. And you always want to, you want to challenge yourself. Challenge yourself by coaching females. Put yourself in, get uncomfortable. Put yourself in that, take yourself out of your comfort zone and go and coach women.
Yeah.
And she goes, it'll be great for you. And for a 15-year-old to tell you that it's going to make you a better coach because...
It's pretty insane insight from a teenager.
Sometimes she's a little bit too mature for my liking, but in that circumstance, I'm grateful that she put her maturity hat on and she backed me and she told me to go back myself and put myself, make myself uncomfortable. I'm forever grateful that she did that. But so it's because of my 15-year-old daughter is why I took on that role.
When I heard that a couple months ago when I was working with you guys, I was stunned. I couldn't believe it when Mick might be watching this, but told me about, he's like, he's here because of his daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, is she like in the extended squad or something? And I'm like, he's like, no, she told him to take this job. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Because even from day dot, it just seemed like it was a natural fit. Like I got there probably round 2 or 3 in the season, and from then on I'm like, this just makes sense, right? But first time coaching females, not even just rep females, and not only that, you'd only had 1 season as a head coach.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Because you'd had the Harold Matts season, and then wasn't it the Harveys after?
Yeah, that's right. So it was effectively 2 seasons in 1 year.
Yeah. So you take both sides now, which is kind of
interesting. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will for the next 2 years.
Yep.
Which is great. So I sort of know where my future lies for the next couple of years. Yeah. And that Harvey's team, I'm so grateful for them as well. There was a couple of girls in that team that weren't going to play.
Yeah.
They didn't have the season that they sort of wanted from themselves in 2023, and they were on the verge of making a decision that rugby league at that level probably wasn't for them, and they were just going to go back and play in the local Group 7 competition or sort of wherever they were from, and just go back and enjoy footy for what it was.
Yeah.
Then they found that they were getting a new coach. Some of them struggled to be coached by a female coach. And some of them had the same coach for multiple years. And I think as a coach, you probably do have an expiry date.
Yeah.
No coaches like to admit that, but I think you do.
By that, do you mean in like one place at a time type thing, or?
Yeah, and Craig Bellamy's probably the exception to the rule. He's been down there for 25 years, or 20 plus years.
I was going to say easily 2 decades, right?
He's probably the exception, but Wayne Bennett had to move on from the Broncos at some stage before he went back. He had to, you have to evolve as a coach to stay in the game, longevity-wise. But, so the girls, I think some of them were a bit stale. Some of them, a bit of self-doubt was sinking in. And then, I think just a new coach might have just been that breath of fresh air that some of them needed. And they said, yeah, we'll come back and we'll give it one more shot.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that they did, because we had such a tight knit group. We had our ups and downs. As a playing group, and some tough conversations with individuals, but they appreciated that the conversations were coming from, that they were coming from a good place, and nothing that I ever say to a player is ever personal. It's always constructive criticism, and it's always team first.
Yeah.
And they understood that, and they respected that. And although they'd walk away disappointed, which I'd probably be disappointed if they didn't take it to heart, because it probably shows that you don't care. But they walked away disappointed individually, but they knew that it was best for the team, and they'd still walk out into that training paddock every single session, and they'd give it their all, and they'd leave nothing out there, and that's why they got what they got at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk about, obviously, a fresh face and everything. You had an assistant that season, Jai. When I first met you both, I thought, these two have been together since his Penrith days, blah, blah, blah. And then it got probably halfway through the season, you're like, yeah, we'd never worked together prior to this team. Explain the relationship that kind of you two guys had, because I think that's one of the things that was making that side tick, was just how, like, yin and yang you two were.
Yeah. Jai Clapham, he's my sounding board. He's only 26, right? So to be a coach of those girls, who some of them are only a couple of years younger than him. There's a couple of them that are his age or a little bit older.
Yeah, Caitlin
right?
Moran would have been about his age.
Well, Caitlin was actually 2 years older than Jai.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Shane Leeson, same age.
Yeah.
Right? So Jai joined our coaching staff at Harold Matt's level.
Yep.
And he wasn't meant to be a coach. He was just there as an extra set of hands to learn, so that he could go back into one of the Illawarra development age groups and coach. I think it was the under 15s Illawarra development side through, that school holiday period around that June, July period, and they go play their junior development games. And Jai wants to be a head coach at some stage in his career. But there was a couple of circumstances there that, during the Harold Matts pre-season, we got to December, and one of my assistant coaches got offered a role to go and be an assistant coach at New South Wales Cup level at another club.
Yeah, you don't turn that down.
And he's a good mate of mine. and I asked him to come on board to help out with Harromats if he didn't have another opportunity at a higher level. At that stage, he didn't. He accepted to come on and help out, but I also told him, and we had an understanding that if he got offered an opportunity, I wouldn't stand in his way. I'd let him go. So he got offered the opportunity probably 3 weeks into pre-season,
Yep.
and he turned around and he told the coach, look, I'll take the job, but I can't be there before Christmas. I have to at least see out this 6-week block up until Chrissy, and then we can part ways, nice and clean, and there's no distractions there and whatever else. So he stuck to his word and he gave me the 6 weeks up until Chrissy. He didn't turn up and give any less of effort or anything like that at every training session. If anything, I think he gave more effort, knowing that he was going to go and be an assistant at New South Wales Cup level.
Yep.
He wanted to be on for when he got there, so which was great. And then it left me short an assistant coach after Christmas. And the junior rep season starts first week of February. So it's hard to go out and find someone that's got experience, right? There's probably someone that's got that experience. They're probably not available. They're already been tied up at another club or another team. So I went and seen Jai. And I said, mate, how'd you like to be Harromat's assistant coach? And just focus on the attack. I know how much you enjoy doing attack. You spend enough time with Doz. You understand what we're about. What do you reckon? And he thought he was looking around for a camera. He thought, well, we're hanging shit on him, and it was a joke. And he's like, are you serious? So I'm serious, mate. I said, if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't be having this conversation. He goes, I'd love to. He goes, as long as you're happy to have me. I said, no, I'm happy. He goes, what about the club? I said, the club will back me. I've already spoke to them. Spoke to Stace, I spoke to Sean. They said, if I'm comfortable, they're comfortable. He goes, all right, I'll do it. Right? So, he fell into that role seamless. He was great. He'd ask so many questions behind the scenes that, when he was out there on the field coaching drills, even if he was winging it, he looked like he knew what he was doing, right? And he built that connection with the boys so organically that they just believed in everything that he was about, and he just grew of confidence every session. And you've met Jai, and his demeanour is, he's so approachable as a person, right? So I thought, if I'm going to go coach this Harvey Norman team, I need to have somebody in my corner that I trust. And I said, well, what are you doing once Harromats is finished? And he's like, oh, nothing. I've been asked to go back and just help out at one of the local A-grade teams or whatever. I said, have you committed to that? He goes, no, not yet. I said, do you want to keep coaching here? He said, what do you mean? I said, I've just taken on the Harvey Norman women's job. I need an assistant coach. Are you keen? He's like, yeah, sweet. I'm like, okay, no worries. I said, same thing, mate, attack. I'll focus on defence. You focus on attack. I said, a little bit different where we're not going to have a big squad every single session because you've got NRLW girls that are up with Sowie at the start of the week, and then they'll come back to us for captain's run. So a lot of the stuff we'll be doing as a group anyway, but still you'll run the attack side of things. I'll just come over the top if I need to. And then you'll just be that second set of eyes with the defensive stuff. And he's like, yep, sweet, no worries. And Jai sort of took on like the big brother role with the girls, and they confided in him a lot more with personal stuff rather than the rugby league stuff, where I was old enough to be some of these girls' dads, and I was sort of like
footy dad,
father and brother type relationship
and I was gonna say,
with the girls.
Like, he would be so relatable in terms of the age kind of demographic. So, and then I remember you saying to me, even the girls saying to me, it's like Jamie's like the footy dad type thing. Like, but yeah. Yeah.
So like even Caitlin Moran, like she was 28. geez, we're grateful to get her, and we're so lucky to get her. But
Was that like a scouting thing, or was that just like a...
no, so
Because getting her might have been... I think she might have been the biggest difference in that side, like the biggest outlier, especially in terms of her past, if playing for Jillaroos and having a young halves partner,
Yep.
but just what she offered.
she was the perfect foil for the whole team.
Oh, yeah.
So we originally had Evie McGrath and Chelsea Saville as part of our squad. Both of those girls, a couple of weeks into pre-season, got offered NRLW contracts with the West Tigers,
Yeah, I got told about this.
which then left us a half short. So I'm having conversations. So Jamie Scissors was obviously NRLW coach, and we'd speak daily around our squad and what it looked like. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll find you a half."
Whoa.
He said, "You just worry about coaching the girls, I'll find you a half." So, all right. So he made a couple of phone calls and he goes, "Mate, I need you to give John Fidel a phone call, player agent."
Yeah.
So he goes, "He's got a half for you." I said, "Who is it?" He goes, "Ring him, he'll tell you who it is." So I rang John. Never spoke to John in my life, right? Never met him, couldn't tell you what he looked like, anything. So I rang. I'm like, "Hey, John, Jamie Scissors from the Illawarra Steelers. How are you?" He goes, "Mate, been expecting your phone call for 2 days." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I believe you spoke to Sowie. You know what our situation is." It's like, "Yeah, mate." He goes, "Caitlin Moran, she's available." He started giving me the spiel about who she was and what she'd done. I said, "You don't have to tell me who Caitlin Moran is, mate. I know who she is. I know what she's done." He said, "She's available. She's got to finish up work here first, but she can be down there by this date." I said, "Righto, we'll get a contract sent up." I said, "If she signs it and she can be here by this date, happy days." So, yeah, she'll be there. No worries. To his word, that day, Caitlin turned up. She turned up to training that Monday. She had a couple of little niggles and whatever else that we sorted out, and she was ready to go for round one. And just having her. So Kofi Brookfield was our other half, who was Lisa Fiola age. So she's only 17 and she hurt her knee during the Lisa Fiola season, so she missed most of the season. And she's dummy half. Never played halfback at representative level, right? So she was nervous as hell. And Caitlin just went up to her and put her arm around her and just said, "You just come with me, kid. You'll be okay." And it was just those couple of words that she said to her. And you just seen Kofi just grow in confidence. And round one they played. Round one they didn't play with each other. Kofi was away for CHS, so school footy.
School footy, yeah.
I had 7 girls away for school footy round one, right, unavailable.
That was Mounties, wasn't it?
It was Mounties, yeah. So I only had 19 available players.
Defending premiers with 19 players available.
Yeah, and that was including the girls that got sent back from NRLW to play for us, right? So, and we got beat 8-4.
Yeah.
Right. But I walked away from that game knowing that if we played them again the following week, we'd beat them. It'd be totally different. And I just had this. I wouldn't call it arrogance, because I don't think that I'm an arrogant person, but I just had this confidence after round one. I'm pretty sure it was after round one. And I went home and I said to my wife, I said, "We won't win every game, but we'll win the comp."
I remember those words vividly.
Right.
I remember you telling me those words.
And she said, "I'm going to hold you to those." I said, "Yeah, do so." So, round two, Caitlin, Kofi played in halves together, and it was like they'd played football, like that 10 years apart.
Was that
in age?
Was that West at Collies?
West Tigers at Collies, yeah.
Yeah.
And we put 50 points on.
I remember that.
And it was great because it was a sponsors' day as well. And
that was my first game I watched of the girls. And I'm like, well, that's...
And I'm not too sure if you remember, but I stood up there in that box And I said to the sponsors, thanks for coming. Hopefully the girls get out there and they put a show on for you. And they didn't disappoint. They went out and Caitlin's kicking game was on point. Our edges were firing and we just put on a clinic that day and we put 50 points on that team. And that was, I think we proved to ourselves the week before against Mounties, who are a much bigger side in wet conditions, so it played into their hands, that physically we could match it with anybody. On any day of the week we could match it with the bigger teams. And then we proved to ourselves in round 2 that if it's a dry track, if you're good enough to go with us, good luck to you, but we're going to take some stopping. So in the first 2 weeks of the competition, we proved to ourselves, no matter what the conditions are, we're good enough. And we believed in that straight away. Yeah. And I suppose the rest of that's history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that can be made of that season. There's obviously definitely more ups and downs, but I kind of want to fast track it to grand final day.
Yeah.
So you beat Mounties at Leichhardt Oval the week prior.
Yep.
I was there for that, and that was that first half. That might be the best half of footy I watched your girls play all season.
Clinical game of footy.
It was insane. Indy Bostock hat-trick in the first half, just firing on all cylinders, forward pack getting you up the park. Going to next week against Newcastle. How are the emotions riding? First grand final as a head coach at CommBank with the New South Wales Cup game following it. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of people there, and especially for as like a second head coaching gig in a way.
Yep.
Walk us through that.
I suppose we played Newcastle earlier on in the year. I think it was around round 6, round 7, we played them. And it came down to the last 2 minutes and we scored next to the post to win the game. It was 16-all with 2 minutes to go. Yeah. And Caitlin played, and she wasn't meant to play, but she was injured. She had a foot injury. She probably
for the first Newcastle game or the grand
final?
For
the first Newcastle game. She had a foot injury and she wasn't meant to play that game. And she's like, it's my old club, I've got to play.
And Tiana West as well, isn't that her old club as well?
And Tiana West, it was her old club as well. And Tiana West wasn't going to play that when we played Newcastle either. But I thought, no, you got mum and family coming to watch you. It's a big day for you. You're playing. And we had a couple of injuries going into that game. Kofi didn't play. She had a knee injury, so she was out. And it wasn't our best performance, but it was our most resilient performance that we'd put in all year. So, it got down to the last 2 minutes and Mackenzie Lee scores next to the post and we end up winning that game. And so then fast forward to the grand final, we're playing Newcastle. So the toughest game we played all year. We knew that it was going to be a tight game. It was going to be a tough game. But Tasha Gale played Newcastle in the grand final, beat them. We played Newcastle, beat them.
I didn't realise the Tasha Gale grand final was Newcastle.
Yeah. And then the very first, I'm pretty sure it was the very first Tasha Gale grand final, when Tasha Gale first came in, was Steelers versus Newcastle. Steelers won that grand final too. Right? Oh. So there's history there.
Right?
But all the history's on our side. So some of the older girls played in that initial Tasha Gale grand final against Newcastle and won. Like Olivia Vale.
Yeah.
Olivia Vale's the first person to score a try at CommBank Stadium. It's pretty cool, right?
As a Steeler?
As a player.
Oh, as soon as the stadium opened?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a stat.
Right? That's cool, right? Right? But yeah, played in that grand final, won. And then you look at the Indy Bostocks, Marie Pasecas, all those girls that,
Tasha Gale.
Played Tasha Gale, Bronte Wilson. The list goes on there that, Sienna Yeo. They beat Newcastle earlier in the year in the Tasha Gale grand final. We didn't have Indy Bostock play for us against Newcastle either. Yeah. So those girls come in and they just turned up on grand final day like it was any other game, and they just had this aura of confidence about them. Like, they don't know how to lose, these girls. They just don't know how to lose, and they'll do whatever it takes to win.
Goes back to the whole mindset of the South Coast people.
100%, right?
The winning and putting whatever you set your mind to.
100%. And, our whole thing was you get what you deserve. Whether it's positive or negative, you get what you deserve. So if you put in the performance, you'll get the win. But if you don't put the performance in, you're not going to win. And they just turned up with this sense of confidence and there just didn't seem to be any nervousness in the dressing shed. And I was probably the most nervous out of everybody. And as a coach, you've got to contain it, because you can't, I suppose you can't express those type of emotions publicly to your playing group, because it can upset them. But as soon as I seen the way that they were conducting themselves and the way that they were on the bus heading to the game, I just knew we were going to win. And I knew it was going to be a tough game, but I knew we were going to win. And no surprises, it was a tough game.
Yeah, my heart was in my throat, probably because for people that don't know, the girls play 70-minute games. Yeah. They don't play the full 80. 60 minutes in, I think Newcastle had scored 8 minutes before full time.
Yeah.
And they were leading 8 minutes before full time. And then Bronte Wilson gets the ball and crashes over.
Yes.
What's the game plan then? Is it keep playing the way we're playing, or defend for your life?
Well, funnily enough, and coaches don't like to admit they were wrong, but I thought that was the wrong play. I thought we had them stripped on the edge and we're going to score in the corner.
I thought that when I was watching it, I thought the ball should be in Maria's hand, because she was getting a lot of space on that edge.
So the first half was just an absolute arm wrestle until Caitlin just puts up that midfield bomb. We get the bounce, and Shay looked like she was running in gumboots, but she was on the spot, caught the ball, and she ran. I think it was. She'll tell you it's about 60 metres, but I think it was about 25 metres. Yeah, we'll give her 25. And she scores to break that deadlock. And then I thought we should have scored again. Maria should have scored in the corner, and the pass went to ground. We didn't score. Yeah. I think it went to ground, or we didn't pass it and we got held up. It was one of the two there. So we should have been 10-0 up, 8-0 up, but we weren't. They scored that soft try out of dummy half just before half time. And then, the second half was just back and forth again. And then they scored. And then it was, you're right, there was 8 minutes to go. I think we got a penalty not long before Bronte scored. And
was that in your own half? I feel like it was.
Yeah, there was. And then we got the ball back again in their half. And our tip sheet said, race them to a corner. So we'd done homework on their edge D. And we wanted to race them to a corner. And Maria was on that edge. And I could talk. I could talk for hours about Maria. I think she's not only, she wasn't only the best winger in our team. I think she's the best winger that we have at our club, and I think she's going to play for Australia in the next couple of years. She's outstanding.
And she got player of the match in the grand
final.
She
did get me her player of the match. That's right.
I remember her in her interview at the end of the game to me. She goes, "Didn't even realise players in my position."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so awesome, right? So humble in her performance and the way that she conducts herself. But I thought if we got to Maria, we score. And Caitlin had other ideas, and she played back through the middle. She identified that they had a couple of tired middles, and she wanted to pick on them. So she had other ideas out on the field, and she dictated where the ball went. And Carla Cowan done her job at 9, and Bronte obviously done her job in the middle, and we score under the post to convert. And And, it was... I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong in that situation. Yeah. But Bronte Wilson scored a try in the Tasha Gale Grand Final. She scored a try in 19's Origin, and she scored a try in Harvey Norman Grand Final all in 1 year.
Big player, big game player.
How cool is that?
That's insane.
So, yeah.
I like that you know all these little stats even as their coach. Like, you kind of keep tabs on these things for them.
Well, I think it's important that you've got to have that personal connection with individuals, right? They will only tell you what they want you to know. Yeah. You got to go and find the rest of the information yourself. So it's amazing what social media can give you.
I was going to say, what do you think? When I was trying to do digging on the Wednesday interviews with the girls, I'm like, man, there's not much on them, but I can find a little bits and pieces.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I remember I was interviewing Tori Shipton, and there's a Rugby Australia interview that was on YouTube. And I'm like, no one would ever find this. And I'm like digging through it for all these little Easter eggs, trying to find something so I can feed it to her. But yeah, no. The fact that these girls have these milestones, and especially like how many of those highlights were on New South Wales Rugby League last season, like on their Instagram. Yeah. Like, just those kind of moments will live forever. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I still don't know how Bronte's try didn't get, the number one try of the year for that on the New South Wales Rugby League social media. They done like a countdown, top 10 tries in each.
Did he get a podium at least?
Yeah, second.
Oh, man.
And the Newcastle try in the grand final from dummy half was number one. So
that's a bit brutal.
I'll just keep reminding Bronte that, just so that just lights a little bit of a fire under her, so she's good to go.
Yeah, a bit burning about it. But yeah, obviously that day kind of special, not only for you and the girls, but the history of the Steelers. But one thing we skimmed over before, which we can touch on lightly, was you were saying how you talk to Sowie daily. Obviously, things folded out the way they did it at the Dragons, but what sort of relationship did you have with him? Obviously, you say you had a relationship with guys like Baz and Webster at the Panthers, but I feel like this is a bit deeper, especially the fact that you're liaising like what players are going to come down and like you had Maria and Bronte between NRLW and Jordan Preston who played NRLW, kind of liaising what players are going to be where. So just a little bit about it.
Yeah, so you're right. It's a different type of relationship than I had with the NRL coaches out there at Penrith. Their relationship was more of the door's always open type relationship, and I'm here for you if you need me. Where Sowie's was a lot more personal, and it was more we'd bounce that many ideas of each other, and it wasn't that he was the dictator. It was, I'm here to help you and you got to help me. So we were all on the same page there, and it was nobody was ever better than each other. We both had a team to coach, and we had to do what was best for the teams and for the club overall. So the decisions were there, and even with Maria and Geordie getting their opportunity to go up and debut at NRLW level, there wasn't a spot for them to get an NRLW contract at the start of the season. Obviously, those positions were already taken up. Geordie was one of those players that wasn't going to come back and play in 24.
Yeah, I remember her telling me.
She was going to go captain coach, Shellharbour Stingrays, and just have fun with her friends. Because she was over it. And she found out that I was coming to coach, and she wanted to be coached by a male. She'd only ever been coached by a female before. She wanted to see if there was a difference in that and whatever else. And so
she got player of the season, didn't she?
She did. She was exceptional, Geordie. But there was, if Jordan Preston was in your side, you weren't losing. Well, there was just something about Geordie that she just gave you a sense of calmness and confidence that if she was in your team, you don't lose games of football. But so Geordie, so the way the NRLW works is different to the NRL. So NRLW, if you have girls that are medically ruled out for the season, you can then fill their role with girls that from outside
Yep.
your top 24.
Top 24 for NRL.
Top 24.
Not a top 30.
No.
Like
Top
most
20,
people are used to for
top
NRL.
24. So 10-week competition as opposed to 27 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So top 24 and 4 development players,
Okay.
right? As opposed to NRL's top 30 and 6 development players.
Yep.
Big difference, right? So NRLW, if medically ruled out, their contracts can be signed over to another player.
Yep.
So Sowie gets dealt some brutal blows there by losing Margot Vella for the season, syndesmosis, and Sarah Sautier, starting middle forward to, season-ending surgery as well. Tara McGrath-West was ruled out before the season even started, right? So a couple of these girls that should be in his starting 17 every single week are now no longer available.
Yeah.
So he rings me and he says, "Who do you reckon?" I'm like, "Mate, if you got a spot, Jordan Preston has to be one of them." I said, "If I'm wrong, I'm happy to put my hand up and say I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong here." He goes, "No, I'll back you." I said, "Marie Paseka, she's the best winger in your club. You need to take her." He goes, "Yeah, I already got her." He goes, "Sweet." I said, "Okay, sweet." All right. I said, "All right, so Marie's your decision, Geordie's mine." He's like, "Yep, sweet." No worries. So, he took both of them. And the reports were that, they went up into that NRLW squad and they just gelled with the girls straight away. And they got along like they'd been there all along.
Yep.
And that they deserved to be there.
Yeah. And you got girls like Indy and Kofi who are training there throughout the week as well.
Yeah, so Indy and Kofi both, and Trinity Tornei were all development players.
Yep.
And Jess Patea was as well. So we're lucky enough to get those 4 girls to come back and play for us. But then we also had Carla Cowan played the majority of the season with us.
Yep.
She played a couple of NRLW games, but so there was connections there from wearing Steelers jersey together.
Yeah.
But then there was also girls that they'd played with previously that were up in that full-time squad playing NRLW as well.
Yep.
Tegan Berry, Casey Ray, Keely Brown, all those girls that wore a Steelers jersey previously as well. So there's already those connections there. So it became a seamless transition for them, which was great.
Yeah.
Marie's debut obviously didn't go to plan for her with the HIA, and Geordie ended up having to play on the wing.
Yeah,
I remember,
right? I watched that game and I'm like, I want to see where these girls play. And I couldn't tell if she was playing centre or on the wing.
Yeah, so she had to go on the wing where she was meant to either go in the centres or in the back row.
Yeah.
But to Geordie's credit, she doesn't care what number she's wearing. She'll play anywhere and she'll give it her all regardless. She'll play in the front row if she has to. So she took her opportunity, and they'd done themselves proud and they'd done their family proud, and they obviously done the Steelers proud as well. But I thought it was a very strong message to my girls that it wasn't a one-way street.
Yeah.
It wasn't just St. George Illawarra Dragons getting sent down to the Steelers and Steelers girls missing out on game time. There was an opportunity there for Steelers girls to be elevated up into a Dragons jersey as well.
Yeah.
So once that happened, the squad was so happy for the two of them, and they debuted at home against the Sharks, and it was a tough outing for the team.
Yeah, and
but,
special Sharks going all the way to the grand final as well.
Yeah, but we didn't make it compulsory that we went and watched the girls debut. But every single girl turned up, and they all stayed back to get photos with them, and they made their signs and everything like that, and it just showed how much each individual was a major part of what our club was
Like a
about.
family.
Yeah,
Literally
definitely.
like a big family.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, that's great. Kind of to sum things up a bit more.
Yeah.
Looking into the future. So, my understanding, you've started kind of a private rugby league program.
I have.
Would I be right in saying that?
Yep, I have. Yep. So, a little plug, Attention to Detail Rugby League Academy.
Yeah. As you should.
Yeah, which has been great. So we started it in December.
Yep.
And the focus on that is from the age groups of 8 till 16. I've purposely capped it at 16. I don't want to have anyone that's sort of Harold Matt's eligible to be in that program because of conflict of interest there.
Say, yeah.
And same as the open age women. I've had plenty of interest from open age women because they're obviously not playing football at the moment, and they don't get to play Harvey Norman until July. Yeah. So it's still a long way away, and they want to get reps in, and they want to start, sort of getting around each other and working on their core skill and stuff like that as well. But I can't have it because if at some stage, Harold Matt's kid ends up making it into my squad, it can't be because it was at Scissors Private Academy or an open age woman plays Harvey Norman for the Steelers or down the future wherever I'm at. So I've distanced myself from those age groups, but the reason I've started it, and there's heaps of academies out there, and they all offer some really good content and delivery, and there's some really experienced people that are running their own private clinics.
Yep.
But my focus is, as the name, attention to detail, being in and around that Harold Matthews age group.
Yeah.
I think it's clear to see that core fundamentals, both with the football and defensive principles or tackle technique, they're not quite there, and their understanding as to why they're doing what they're doing isn't there. They do it because they were told to do it.
I was say it's almost like rutting out like things you've been doing since under sixes, and it's just things you've naturally picked up through playing the game.
And I take my hat off to every mum and dad that put their hand up to be a coach at junior rugby league level, because without them, the kids don't have a team to play in because they need to have a coach.
I was going to say there's no sport without them.
That's right. But not every club's lucky enough to have a kid in the team whose dad's an ex-NRL player or whose dad has coached at a elite level, and now they're not, and they just want to coach their son or their daughter. Yeah. So they get to go back and they get to put their experience into the team, and so not everybody's privileged to have that. But like I said, the parents that do coach who put their hand up to do it, I take my hat off to them because it's a tough gig, and a lot of the time they're learning on the run. And just because you see it on TV on Friday night doesn't mean that your team can go and do it on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But your team might be able to go do it on Saturday morning as long as they understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I sort of started my own academy, so that I could give the players an understanding as to why. Sorry,
no,
but it's not about telling them, structures or defensive principles or anything like that.
Yep.
It's just about the core fundamentals of the game and giving them confidence to go and put that into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you running that yourself, or is that is there any other coaches helping you, or
Sorry.
Do you need me to grab you?
No, it's okay. I'm hands-on in all sessions.
Yep.
So small group sessions, it's me and me alone. Large group sessions, I get Jai to come in and help me.
Yeah, beautiful.
But I've also got Charlotte Basham on board now. So Charlotte Basham is St George Illawarra Harvey, NRLW player.
Yeah.
She's also Steelers junior.
Yeah.
And yeah, when she's free, because obviously she's got a heavy load as a player herself.
Yeah.
When she's free, Bash will be coming to some girl sessions and putting some insight in from a female perspective as well.
Is she trying to get her like coaching badges or something, or is that just kind of a thing?
So Bash, I work with her down at Illawarra Sports High as well. So she coaches the under 16s girls school side.
Yep.
Which is great.
Is that your? I was gonna say, is that your daily now that you're doing work down there?
So it's part time.
Yeah.
So I'm purely there for rugby league. So they train 2 days a week,
Yep.
and then obviously in term 2 and term 3 they'll play. So there'll be 3 days a week there. But I'm just pretty much overseeing the program there from a coaching point of view. So I won't necessarily coach any of the teams, but we're just trying to put in place a bit of a NRL type pathway structure there, where from year 7 through to year 12, everybody's been taught the same thing. So as they go through through the years, they know what the expectations are from them and the standards and everything like that. Because like we touched on earlier, the breeding ground down there is huge.
Yeah.
And we want those kids to go to Illawarra Sports High, get elite coaching. So lucky enough that we've got Mark Riddell down there as well.
Yep.
Myself, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is sort of overseeing the program from more of a probably administration point of view and a performance point of view. But he's got NRL experience at the Warriors and the Knights.
Yep.
Piggy obviously played just under 300 NRL games, at Para and the Dragons, and over in Super League as well. And now he's sort of assistant coach under Sean Timmins, SG ball level. So he's coaching one of the teams at the school. Alex Melville, former NRL assistant under Ivan when Ivan was at Panthers first time.
Yep.
And Brett Kelly, former NRL player, he's a teacher there too. So, we've got plenty of experience there, and everybody has the same vision for that program at the school. So that's why we've got Charlotte Basham there for the girls' side of things as well. So to bring that elite professionalism into there, because it's not just a male focus. It's a rugby league program focus.
Yeah.
So she from a coaching point of view, she'll be driving the same standards that we do from the male side of it as well. So she's great to have on board.
Yeah. Is there any other words you want to say about attention to detail? If there's anyone that is watching that might be interested, I'm not sure, but
yeah. So obviously we're on socials, on Facebook as Attention to Detail Rugby League.
I put all the
Academy
links in the description anyway.
Yeah,
so.
and ATD Footy Academy on Instagram. I'm not very computer savvy when it comes to social, so we do put content up when we can, but we're always advertising when we've got sessions coming up. I'd love to do a shout out to App and Dogs Junior Rugby League.
Yep.
Those guys, they embraced us from the get-go, and we use their facility in December. Pick the Magpies Junior Rugby League, we're using their facility at the moment on Thursday nights, and we're doing a tackle tech program out there. And there's a lot of their players coming in there. And Nelson Bay Dolphins Junior Rugby League, we're going up there at the end of January, and we're going to... Yeah,
big move for Picton and
and they've reached out to us to go and run a couple of clinics out there. So it's not just for those clubs; it's just those clubs have reached out to us to host at their facility, which is great. But anybody that's playing in and around those local junior areas are more than welcome to come. But just look us up on social media and
absolutely
and reach out. And we do anything from positional specific stuff to small groups to large groups, and we can even come out to your training session at your local club, and we can run session specific stuff for you if you want to focus on that, and run coach to coaches sessions also. So yeah, look us up.
Yeah, a little bit of a plug's the least I can do.
No, I appreciate it, mate.
I've got two more questions. They're a bit more small.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Whether it was an assistant role or a head coaching role, definitely interested. I did throw my hat in the ring for the Dragons NRLW gig. Unfortunately, missed out. But
I'll be honest, when the way things were going with Steelers, I'm like, there's a coach that's doing pretty well in their juniors, and he's feeding their side. I'm like, I was saying that in the back of my mind. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So I missed out to Nathan Cross, and I've met Crossy a few times, and he's a good dude. I'm looking forward to really working with him over the next couple of years and continue to develop these Steelers girls. So my focus now is with the Steelers. So I've signed with them for another 2 years. So for the 25 and 26 seasons. So that is my focus. But yeah, down the track, I want to step up, and I want to be in that NRL or NRLW sphere. And like I said, I coach rugby league players. I don't coach male or female. So
open to anything.
Yeah, do I want to pigeonhole myself? No. I think coaching at the moment, coaching 17-year-old boys, that's helping me as a coach, because it's helping me deliver to those boys around expectations and standards, and still allowing them to express who they are. Coaching the females at Harvey level, it is teaching me the compassion side of the game.
Yeah.
It teaches me how to control my emotion. It teaches me how to deliver clearly and get straight to the point. Whereas I think we take for granted that the males have played the game since I was 6.
Yeah.
And we just think that they know. And we can say, boys, this is a drill we're doing. And they just fall straight into that drill and they do it. The girls ask a lot more questions, which I think leaves you a lot more vulnerable to, if you don't know, they're going to find out. They know whether you're lying to them or not.
Yeah. They'll ask the whys, why we're doing this.
Yeah, so you really need to know your stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So because they ask me so many questions, it keeps me accountable. It keeps me on my toes. And then I think being second year in Harold Matts, I think that's helped me, drastically helped me go back and deliver to these boys in a clearer way. And they don't like to ask questions because it's an ego thing with the boys.
Yeah. But
it forces me to ask them whether they actually understand what's going on or not. And then it's given them the comfort to be in a safe space to be able to start asking questions as well. So I've taken a lot out of both sides of the game. And I think that's just going to make me a better coach in the future. I'll still get things wrong, as everyone does, and I'll continue to own them when I do get them wrong.
All coaches.
It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, and it doesn't mean that the person that I'm having the discussions with are a bad person either. As long as we learn together, we get through things together, and we'll continue to support each other, and we'll continue to be better and be the best versions of ourselves on a daily basis and a weekly basis and a yearly basis based on the support that we give each other as player and coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I have, a bit more of a simple one, but I feel like every person in rugby league has their one little thing that they might wish was different in the game. Is there anything from a coaching perspective or a viewing perspective, or even when you're playing, one rule that you might wish you'd like to see the game change or develop in a different way?
It's a tough one because I think the game's in a pretty good position where it's at now. With I don't think they need to keep coming up with a new rule change every single year, and I'm glad that they didn't go ahead with the new kickoff rule that they were going to bring in, because
that was a bit.
Well, I think it eliminates one problem, but it opens up a can of worms for other problems. So I'm glad that they didn't rush into making that decision, and they've held off on making that call. But I think we're in a really good position where we are now. I suppose as a player, look, I think the game, I don't think I would have changed anything, to be honest, from then to now, because the game has to evolve.
Yeah.
So it has to start somewhere, and it has to not so much finish somewhere, but it has to start somewhere and it has to keep building off it. The boys now are bigger, stronger, faster than what they were when I played. I think it was harder to play NRL back when I was a player. I think there's a lot more opportunity now, but that's around the professionalism that's given to the players at a younger age as well. From a coach's point of view now, to the players, I'd love for them to start watching more rugby league on TV. One thing that I did see, Dylan Brown, he was on a podcast a little bit ago, and he admitted that he doesn't watch rugby league because they do so much video at training. He doesn't watch much rugby league. But
it's like there's a famous football player, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a guy named Ben White, and he's like one of the best defenders in England, and he just goes, I don't watch football in my spare time. He's like, I can't stand watching football in my spare time.
Yeah, he's one of the best defenders, right?
At his club, easily. Yeah.
So Dylan Brown is arguably one of the best attacking footballers in the game.
Yeah.
Right? But when you sit there and you do video review or preview, regardless of which it is, and every player at that level's got access to footage, and they can go and analyse it, and they can specifically target an individual, and they can see every missed tackle they've made, every tackle that they've made, every kick, every run, everything that they do in a game.
Yeah.
They can pull that up.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere to hide. But I use the Nathan Cleary example. When they come back, like Ezra Mam, there's no better 20 minutes of football than Ezra Mam scoring 3 tries in that grand final, right?
Absolutely.
But then, or 19 minutes, and in the last 20 minutes, Nathan Cleary went about his business for 20 minutes to score that try.
Yeah.
So if you're not watching rugby league, you don't know what Nathan did in the set before.
Yeah.
The set before that. The 10 minutes before that.
You see the highlight reel, you don't see everything.
That's right.
The highlight reel.
You might see the play before that leads to that play, or you might see one.
So, I don't know why, but my phone decided to stop recording, whether that be because I got a notification of some sort, or whether something happened on my phone and it cut the last 6 minutes of the episode off. In usual cases, I don't tend to compromise quality for a bit more content, but the last 6 minutes of this episode I thought was insightful, especially for young rugby league players who are coming up, especially with someone like Jamie who's had years in the industry. I felt like this was important. So yeah, I'm going to put subtitles on it for those who are watching it on YouTube. But yeah, the audio isn't very crisp.
that leads to that play. Well, you might see one set before that leads to that play, but you don't see
the whole six.
You don't see the bigger picture, right? So how do I get a full understanding of the game if I'm just watching the clips that the coaches give me? Right? So, whereas when we came through, I think there was a bigger understanding of the game. We weren't as skillful, weren't as fast, as strong as, or whatever, as the boys now. But I think our understanding of the game was higher, and that's what made it harder to debut, because everybody would get home and watch Friday night football. Everybody would be begging mum and dad to get home from the shop on the Sunday so they could watch Sunday afternoon footy. But it just doesn't happen anymore. So I suppose from a coach's point of view, I just wish that my players watch more rugby league.
Yeah.
Give them more of an understanding of the game rather than just the clips that I give them.
Yeah. That's a really nice insight, because I feel like it's the same even with me and my mates. It's like there's so much sport available, whether it be NRL, whether it be football, whether it be basketball, whatnot. People pick and choose what they watch, whereas if you're playing a sport, you really should just be absorbing everything, right? But
and the kids are happy to watch themselves.
Oh yeah, God yeah. I think any kid that's on camera is happy to watch himself.
So we'll use the Dragons as an example, and let's pick a position and we'll say fullback. Current fullback, Gutherson. Right? Well, he hasn't played yet, but soon he will be, right? We'll even go back last year
and go Carlos one.
Right? We'll go back last year because now this is a live conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So who's the current NRL fullback? Tyrell Sloan. Right. How long's Tyrell Sloan? Tyrell Sloan's 22.
Yeah.
Right? 21, 22. Okay. So he hasn't been his peak yet. How old are you? 17. So you're 4 years younger than him. So when you're 21, how old are you going to be? 25? Probably in his peak, right? So what are you going to do better? So by the time you're 21, that you can knock Tyrell Sloan out of his position, right? What do you have to do now? Start doing now, so that at 21, you can knock him off when he's at his peak.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not watching footy,
they won't have an answer for that.
But if you're not watching footy, you don't even know what his strengths are or what his weaknesses are.
Yeah.
Right? And you just watch yourself, right? But you only get feedback from your coach on what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. But if you watch rugby league more often, you'll see that what your coach is talking about is being practiced week in, week out at NRL level, and then nailing it, and you'll get it wrong.
Good insight.
Right? So, you're looking at a centre. Who's the best centre in the game at the moment?
Stephen Crighton.
Stephen Crighton, best. But you're going to play Stephen Crighton. What are you going to do to be better than him? Because he's 23.
Yeah, he'll be there for the next. He's at least.
Right.
Yeah, if you're 17, 5 years from then, 22.
Yeah.
You got to start breaking. Breaking into.
So what are you going to do if your debut's against him? Are you going to be ready for it?
Because you haven't watched him for the past 5 years.
Yeah. You've only seen clips. Right?
Yeah.
So what are his weaknesses? You don't know. What are his strengths? You don't know. You got to be watching.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's good insight. Absolutely. I didn't even play like sport. I've never played at that level. But even just watching sport, I actually enjoy just trying to nitpick. Just being like, oh yeah, it's like that's the little thing and blah blah blah. But if your players aren't, yeah. 100%. Is there anything else you want to add? I feel like that's kind of everything I had for you.
Oh, mate, I appreciate you reaching out and taking the time to sit down and have a chat. From the day that you reached out to me, I've been looking forward to it, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you Scissors for coming on. And let me know if you want to see anyone else in the rugby league sphere on the show. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be more episodes to come surrounding junior pathways. As shown today, there's a lot of stories and a lot of things that people wouldn't know, kind of what goes on behind the scenes in rugby league, opposed to just watching, your Friday night footy.
Yeah, that's huge, and I suppose there's no footy on at the moment other than junior reps. So, get on New South Wales Rugby League website and have a look and see if there's a junior rep game close to you and get down and watch it, because it gives you a little bit of insight as to, the future of the game, who's coming through.
Absolutely.
So,